I just want to share with you something. You might have seen it on the back of your bulletin, or if you happen to click on that interact page on our website, watching online, stick with me. I encourage you to do that just for a couple of minutes so we can share with you some things coming up starting next Sunday. But you'll see on the back of your bulletin that our service times are changing starting next week. And here's the reason for that. You know, we've been blessed to grow to become a larger church in a smaller rural area, which is an awesome blessing to get to have, you know, larger staff, larger facilities. We have great sized rooms God's blessed us with where we can kind of spread out like we are in this service. Our kids can spread out. We're so incredibly blessed. We also have an HVAC system that's fairly new here where it's bringing in fresh air. It always has. It filters the air in this room. It always has. We're just upgrading to the best quality filters we can get that are recommended right now. And so those are all great blessings. But with all those blessings come responsibilities to be wise, to be cautious. And so one of the things we're doing starting next week is we're going to start offering a third worship gathering so we can break up the density of people even more. Especially in our 9 a.m. worship gathering. We can take that and divide it kind of in half, give people two options, and that'll just help people spread out even more for the sake of safety. And you know, some of this is a consideration of what's going on with COVID, but it's also more than that because we're entering into cold and flu season. And so with that in combination with COVID, we know that there's a lot of our teachers, a lot of our families, even your kids that go to school, government employees, even other employers that have policies now in place to help be aware of the potential for COVID and an outbreak. So if someone gets a runny nose, you get a head cold, you get a sinus infection, you even get a fever, the requirement to get a COVID test. And some would have to be out of work for a few days. Or if you own your own business, you may have to shut things down because you don't want to share this with anybody else. The truth is, I don't want, as a pastor of a congregation, I don't want us to make each other's lives more difficult by having to jump through these hoops if sickness comes, and it's going to come. And we can help diminish the risk of spread as a congregation by offering another worship gathering and spreading people out even more. And so that's going to start next week. The new Sunday morning schedule is going to be an 8:30 a.m., a 9:45 a.m., and an 11 a.m. The 11 a.m. stays the same, mask required through the entire service. And I just want to thank you for honoring us in that request. This service really exists for those who are most vulnerable, those who care for people that are the most vulnerable, people whose work have very narrow margins if they have any kind of sickness. So the 11 o'clock will continue to be mask required from the moment you hit the parking lot to the moment you leave, except when you're snacking on a cookie or having a drink of coffee, right? Pull it down, pull it up. But through the singing, through everything. But we're going to take the 9 a.m., we're going to kind of divide it into two, a little bit earlier and a little bit later, 8:30 and 9:45. We're going to reduce the time of our gatherings. They've been about an hour. We're going to reduce it a little bit more to 45, 50 minutes so we can get people in, get people out, clear out the parking lot. Tacoma Island will continue to be offered during the message. That won't change at all. Worship will be for the whole family together. And one other change, you'll see as you come in next week, there's going to be a lot less chairs in here. We're going to have them spaced out even more than what they are. It's nowhere near to what it used to be. We used to kind of be like sardines in here. It's going to get more separation, more chairs removed because we're offering a whole nother venue. What we're also going to do is when the room is set, it's going to be kind of first come, first serve in those 3 times. We're not going to add any chairs to the floor, but what we are going to do is we're going to have chairs ready to add in the foyer spaced out where you can hear what's going on in here, but you can watch it on the screens out there. And we're also going to begin, you know, a number of our families have said as soon as Tiny Steps is back, we'll be back. But the reality is, you know, children ages 0 to 4, you can't social distance with them, right? I mean, they put something in their mouth, they give it to their friend, they put it in their mouth, then they stick their hand down their diaper, right? I mean, you just can't really control much of what goes on there. They're just constantly in each other's space. But what we can do is we can take that space, which is rather large, which has its own HVAC system that brings in fresh air, that filters what's there. We can set up a projection screen and a projector, and we can set up chairs, but we can also have activities for kids. So if anybody's watching online or you here, you would love to bring your younger children, nursery age, toddlers, they'll have space there where you don't feel like you're interrupting the worship gathering in this space. And it'll be a live feed of what's going on in this room, piped in there with a separate sound system. The chairs will be spaced out even more. There's going to be some activities provided by our Tiny Steps staff, some coloring pages. You can bring toys for your kids to play with, all of that so you can actually still have the adult interaction in between services, have that fellowship, but in an environment where you don't feel like you're distracting anybody and yet you're still gathering for worship. So that's going to all start next Sunday. We'll have multiple venues. And really, this is just for me. It's a goal. Let's love our neighbors as ourselves. Let's love our community, and let's do the best we can to be as safe as possible. Because I think one of the most damaging or one of the most foolish demonstrations to our community that we could share is if all of a sudden there was an outbreak and it was connected to a local church. I just think that would be a really sour way to proclaim the truth of loving our neighbors as ourselves. So we want to be careful. We want to be cautious. We want to be wise. But we still want to be the ekklesia of Jesus. That's the Greek word he uses in Matthew 16 when he says, I will build my ekklesia and the gates of hell will not stand against it. The ekklesia most in its base translation is the gathering or the assembly of the followers of Jesus. And so we want to continue to gather, but we want to do it as safe as possible. Does that make sense? So that change is going to happen starting next Sunday. When you come in, you'll see your seat that you're accustomed to might be a little bit different, in a little bit different place. We're going to utilize everything around the floor, and so just notice that'll be there. Tiny steps will be open, and I promise the coffee will be hot and ready for you.